Stalin what? He gave an interview to the Western press for the first time. Why now? To convince everyone he isn't dead. Well, yeah, I guess that would do it. Hey, look, I gotta go, okay?
Hey, this month's top headline. Germany pushes for global disarmament amid Nazi outcry and French resistance.
Arming the nation. 19 billion allocated for French war preparations in 1931.
Brüning to France. No hatred or war threats, but peaceful cooperation.
Foreign Minister Curtius responds to Tardieu for Germany's vital needs. Equal rights for all. Our call for disarmament. No adventures in foreign policy. The Chancellor demands full sovereignty for Germany. A warning to France. Germany's equal right to security. The fight for revising the peace dictate continues.
The complete bankruptcy of the Stresemanns. France breaks its Treaty of Versailles. The raging French government rejects any disarmament.
I'm Indy Neidell.
I'm Spartacus Olsson.
And this is The Rise of Hitler, and welcome back to the Weimar Wire. This time, we'll cover some of November's notable, notorious, and newsworthy nincompoops.
But let's recap October. Last month saw the conclusion of the Ulmer Reichswehr trial with 3 soldiers convicted on charges of high treason. The Nazi Party managed to extricate itself from the whole affair.
In Berlin, we saw attacks against Jewish-looking citizens and businesses by the Nazis, and Arnold Rechberg made headlines by claiming that Germany and the Soviet Union would one day start a new European war by invading Poland.
We also saw the new Brüning government survive a motion of no confidence. And here are the other important headlines of this month.
The largest plane in the world, the Dornier DOX, takes off on its maiden voyage headed from Germany to America.
The first female vocational school opens in Munich. They offer only one course: home economics.
300 students are arrested in Berlin because they disregard the government's ban on dueling. Allegedly, a significant number of sabers and rapiers are seized by the authorities.
Brüning's new budget is already in trouble, and the Nazis perform well in regional elections in Oldenburg, Mecklenburg, Karlsruhe, Danzig, and Bremen.
The Berlin chief of police is punched in the face by a communist.
Elections in Austria. The Social Democrats take the win.
Now, before we get to these in more detail, it is time for Where's Hitler? What's Adolf up to this month? Well, let me start. He begins the month by writing an article regarding last month's metal workers' strike and makes an observation for all of Germany.
In the feverish and convulsed state of the German economy, a certain general strike psychosis seems to be emerging as a new phenomenon. I think we need to point out that this is not entirely true. If the current rate of strikes continues to the end of the year, Germany will have had about 345 strikes in 1930.
Okay, if you compare that to 1928, there were 763 strikes then, so it doesn't seem half as bad as Hitler says, and it's certainly not novel. On the 7th, Hitler makes organizational changes to the Nazi militias, the Sturmabteilung, SA, and the Schutzstaffel, SS. He declares,
a fundamental order is being prepared to completely separate the SA and SS. Their tasks are entirely different. The SS's primary role is to carry out police duties within the party.
To make that happen, he makes 2 things very clear. 1, no SA leader is authorized to issue orders to the SS. No SS leader is authorized to issue orders to the SA. And 2, the SA is prohibited from recruiting within the SS. Likewise, the SS is prohibited from recruiting within the SA. Yeah.
Hitler gets a present this month from Theodor Fritsch, the 30th edition of the Handbook of the Jewish Question, first published under a different name in 1887. The book contains, well, falsehoods about the Jewish people and the Jewish religion.
Here's an example. Fritsch argues that the wealth Prussia accumulated by honest work posed a problem to the international Jewish cabal, leading them to engineer the Great War and Germany's defeat, all in their quest to gain world domination, something which Hitler incorporated into his book, Mein Kampf.
Hitler is grateful for the gift, writing to Herr Fritsch. Many thanks for kindly sending your book. I studied it extensively in my youth in Vienna. I am convinced that it played a significant role in preparing the ground for the National Socialist anti-Semitic movement. I hope that the handbook will eventually be found in every German household. With German salute, yours sincerely, A. Hitler.
Also, at various party functions and public appearances this month, he decries the current state of affairs, the government, the shameful peace of 1918, basically, well, business as usual.
Yeah, let's move on to some unusual business then, shall we?
Okay.
For centuries, humanity dreamed of conquering the skies.
Yes.
And for most of that time, it was just that, a dream. Then in 1903, the Wright brothers made it a reality, launching the Age of Flight.
Wait a second. What about Otto Lilienthal? Hey, I remember him soaring through the air in 1889. Come on, that was awesome, right? I mean, we were just kids then, yeah?
Sure, I remember, but Lilienthal's flights were glides. The Wright brothers were the first to achieve sustained powered flight.
Okay, yeah.
And look at how far we've just come since then. Just 27 years later, we've built a massive machine that can carry 169 people across the Atlantic Ocean.
That is true. We have a giant leap in aviation with the maiden voyage of the Dornier DOX, an engineering marvel, a true behemoth of the skies.
Absolutely. Just look at this beauty, Indy.
Wow.
12 524 horsepower engines in a push-pull configuration, a wingspan of 48 meters. It's great.
It's the cat's meow.
It's the cat's pajamas.
It's the cat's whiskers.
It's the bee's knees.
It's berries. Okay, it is stunning. But come on, it is also a boat! A flying boat!
Well, there's logic behind that.
Okay.
The DOX has a maximum take-off weight of 52 tons,
Right.
52,000 kilograms.
Right.
Runways for something that size would cost a fortune to build. Water runways? Problem solved.
Plus, with long distances, you'd need plenty of stopovers, like between Europe and America, and building massive runways in every major city and every stop along the way is not exactly practical.
It is not. Flying boats open up possibilities that regular planes just can't match, and according to some current aeronautics experts, never will.
I do find it a bit ironic that the future of planes might be boats.
It really makes you feel like we're living in the future.
Yeah.
Now on to something that makes you feel like we live in the past.
Right. On the 26th, the police in Berlin arrest 300 students, temporarily, for illegal dueling. Now, that is something straight out of the 18th century.
Oh, yes, it is. However, I think we need to go back in time to properly explain to our listeners what exactly is going on here. When universities became more popular towards the end of the Middle Ages in what is today Germany, students had the right to carry swords and defend themselves against robbers and brigands on their travels.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, from this tradition, a lively dueling culture among fraternities developed. This, though, has been banned in Germany since its founding in 1871.
Yet, it is also important to note that it still receives special treatment under the law. If convicted, a duelist is not sent to jail or prison, but fortress imprisonment, which does not reflect negatively on a gentleman's honor.
There is a distinction between duels to the death or to the satisfaction of one's honor. Neither, though, is what these students do on the 27th. They wear protective gear on their bodies and their eyes, and they fight until first blood is drawn. The scars of these duels, called schmiss, are seen as a badge of honor among the students that make up most fencing fraternities. Again, though, these types of duels, called Mensur, are prohibited by law.
Student fraternities, also known as corps, have a long and important history in Germany. In their current form, they have existed since about 1800, and they played a big role in German unification through pan-German idealism and in advancing democratic ideals in Germany.
Two notable instances are the Wartburg Fest in 1817 and the Hambacher Fest in 1832. In both of those cases, students celebrated the idea of a united and more democratic Germany. There are also other fraternities that do not engage in dueling, like the Christian ones.
Yeah, but while dueling may be prohibited, it is more or less socially accepted that a student should not only protect life and limb, but also his honor with his sword.
Funny you say that, because Kaiser Wilhelm also illegally dueled. I hope that as long as there are German corps students, that you will always proudly wield the fencing saber. Our duels are often misunderstood by the public. We, who were corps students ourselves, as I was, know better. Just as medieval tournaments tempered the strength and bravery of men, so too does the spirit and life within the corps instill the resolve necessary for life's greater challenges, a resolve that will persist as long as there are German universities.
Okay. enough with the past.
Yeah.
People are going to think we're a history broadcast and not a news show.
Right.
Let's talk about the Austrian elections. On the 9th, the 4th National Council election of the Austrian Republic takes place.
What makes this election interesting for us here at the Weimar Wire is that the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi party, is also in the mix, attempting to replicate their recent astounding German successes in the birth country of their leader Adolf Hitler. Of course, the Nazis report on the election.
The National Council elections in Austria, a significant increase in National Socialist votes across the board, despite weeks of hostile Jewish press campaigns. Decline of the Social Democrats. Based on the results, the National Socialists have recorded significant voting gains.
Significant voting gains, huh? Okay, well, how did they specifically do, Sparty?
Well, they managed to triple their votes compared to the last elections in 1927.
That is not bad. Are they the second strongest party there as well as they are now in Germany?
Well, they did triple the vote, but only from 1% to 3%. But that still means that they do not meet the necessary threshold to enter parliament.
Okay.
However, just like in Germany, the Social Democrats remain the strongest party in Austria.
They say this. The number of explicitly fascist pushist votes, including those for the Heimwehr Party and National Socialist, amounts to only around 340,000.
It seems like Germany and Austria are walking different paths.
So let's move on from an electoral slap in the face to an actual punch in the face. Get this. On the 7th, there's a trial at the 3rd Criminal Chamber of District Court 3 in Berlin.
A trial?
Yes.
Let me guess. An issue of the Rote Fahne or the Völkische Beobachter is banned, or someone is accused of corruption?
No, this one has a twist.
What's the occasion?
Okay, remember last year's Bloody May protests with Karl Zorgiebel as chief of police?
Of course I do.
I will tell them then. During those May Day demonstrations, police cracked down hard on the communist demonstrators. Lots of injuries, 30-something deaths, right? Now fast forward to this trial, which is about police liability for all that, where Zorgiebel gets assaulted.
What happened?
When he tries leaving the courtroom, a communist named Heydrich socks him square in the face. The Rote Fahne has this to say. He punished the man who had deprived so many families of their breadwinners, shot down from ambushes, balconies, or beaten into cripples, trampled and crushed. In that shout, in that punch, burned the furious hatred of persecuted Red Berlin, of all workers, against the socio-fascist bloodbath of May the 1st.
I'm not surprised. The communist punching the worker murderer, as they have called him for months now, is not really that weird, you know.
Yes, but there is more to it. For one, Zorgiebel is dismissed as chief of police 3 days before the trial. Now that raises some eyebrows.
Why is he dismissed?
Well, according to Prussian Minister of the Interior Karl Severing, it has to do with kicking the police in Berlin into high gear and moving in a harsh new direction.
But
there's another article in the same issue of Rote Fahne about this, and here they go into a bit more detail of what in the courtroom preceded the assault, which was questions for Zorgiebel like...
were you told by 2 communist MPs between 1 and 2 o'clock on May 1st, 1929 that uninvolved persons had been killed? And did you respond, no one needs to be out on the streets anyway?
The court, though, calls this and all other questions inadmissible because Zorgiebel has stepped down as chief.
So, you're suggesting that the Prussian Minister of the Interior abused the court system to safeguard his fellow party member Zorgiebel from the consequences of his alleged wrongdoing on May 1st, 1929.
It doesn't add up otherwise. His dismissal, the dismissal of the questions at court, the timing of it all.
Oh, come on, Indy. That's the communists reporting. They aren't exactly married to the truth.
Yeah, I know, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. And it's not like nothing went wrong last May. We were in the city.
Yeah, I remember.
Let's just say there is something fishy going on without pointing any fingers, okay? In any case, because of the articles, the Rote Fahne is banned from publication from the 9th through the 16th, and Heydrich is sentenced to 5 months imprisonment, partly because he added, "I'll gun him down eventually," when taken into custody.
After a punch to the face, let's look at Chancellor Brüning's economic plans and whether they will knock Germany out of recession.
Punch it out of recession. Carry on.
Brüning ran in the recent elections on the promise of reforming the struggling German economy and alleviating the constant budget troubles we've seen since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this month, Brüning has to present his budget for 1931 to the Reichsrat, made up of the governors of the federal states.
And he does that when opening the session on the 4th. However, what exactly that means for Germany and its people remains a divided issue. On the one hand, the Nazis comment,
The Reich budget of 1931. Cuts at the expenses of the working people and the safety of the Reich. The Reich budget plan for 1931 will be submitted to the Reichsrat on Tuesday. It balances ordinary revenues and expenditures at around 10.4 billion Reichsmarks, with an additional extraordinary budget amounting to approximately 237 million Reichsmarks. And the communists agree.
the tribute Chancellor Brüning justifies his hunger program, starve for young Germany's imperialism. The poor are robbed of everything, and it is given to militarism.
As you can maybe already guess, the planned budget primarily consists of two things: spending cuts and tax increases. Here's just a quick general overview of what's planned.
Basically, the states and the federal government need to save money wherever they can. That's the idea. So that means that pretty much every branch of government, the Foreign Office, the military, whatever, has a reduced budget. The wages for ministers and bureaucrats, both federal and state, are also cut. It is the same with the unemployment insurance. Cut.
Then you have raised taxes and tariffs. All in all, if you had to describe it in one word, it would be austerity.
And from Brüning's perspective, this makes sense. For the year 1930, Germany already has a sizable deficit, estimated to be 900 million marks. For 1931, it's estimated to be even higher, 1 billion.
Now, this deficit mainly comes from two things: reduced tax revenue because of the global economic crisis, and also because of that, a ballooning of government expenditure.
This is also partly due to extremely poor resource management. Like, at the beginning of this year, the government estimated that unemployment insurance would cost roughly 150 million Reichsmarks for the year. That money was spent before January was even over.
Yeah, so all in all, it's not great. Another problem is that Germany cannot easily borrow money. Again, there are two reasons. One, Germany is already drowning in debt, and two, the global nature of the economic crisis makes any foreign country or institution hesitant to lend money.
Still, some remain optimistic about this new program and its contents. The Vossische Zeitung writes, "For the man who holds Germany's fate in his hands, this is not just a great personal success, but if properly understood and utilized, will represent a decisive step forward for German policy."
But these issues are far from new. They've already brought down one government and one Reichstag this year. And with the recent election results leaving Brüning without a majority, the question remains, why would things be any different now?
This gives rise to the worry that should this pass the Reichsrat, Brüning will skip the Reichstag altogether, governing directly by presidential decree under Article 48.
The Nazis right. The new constitutional breach towards a capital dictatorship with Marxist support, social democratic betrayal of the working class to the cabinet of destitution. The veiled dictatorship of the Brüning government is thus to be continued by all unconstitutional means.
The government vehemently denies any such charges, and today, the 30th, 3 days before the next scheduled session of the Reichstag, the budget has passed the Reichsrat. And so far, the government has kept its word, at least concerning the budget. Two other laws, though, aimed at reforming Germany's finances, require a change to the constitution. That means a supermajority. But also today, Brüning announces that he plans to enact those by presidential decree.
All of the planned policies have also resulted in one of Brüning's coalition partners, the Economy Party, WP, withdrawing its support for him, resulting in Justice Minister Johann Victor Brett announcing his resignation effective early next month.
And now the headline of the month, which, together with the budget, dominated this month's events: Germany's foreign policy.
On the 6th, the Preparatory Disarmament Commission under the League of Nations in Geneva gets back to work after an almost year-and-a-half break. Its purpose is to, prepare for the scheduled disarmament conference, which is to take place sometime down the road.
Of course, disarmament, especially when France and by extension the Treaty of Versailles are involved, is a hotly contested topic in German politics.
The Treaty of Versailles is a thorn in the side of pretty much every political faction in the Reich. The communists call it exploitative and imperialist. The Nazis call it a disgraceful treaty and denounce what they perceive as shame that it has brought down on the once mighty Germany.
But even the more moderate parties, like Brüning Zentrum or the Social Democrats, are not exactly fans of the treaty. It limits the German military to 100,000 men, robs it of any air force, dramatically shrinks the navy, and more.
So what is Germany's strategy going into the conference? Well, according to Germany's Foreign Minister Julius Curtius, I do not consider it advisable at the present moment to change Germany's tactics, that is, to announce rearmament instead of, as before, demanding disarmament. Such a change in Germany's approach is opposed by the reparations situation in foreign policy and the financial situation domestically.
What Curtius means is that given the economic turmoil currently devouring Germany, in combination with its sizable reparations payments and foreign loans, it is neither the time nor the place to start arguing for German rearmament or against established international treaties such as Versailles. You cannot make demands from a position of weakness. Well, you can, but no one's going to listen to them.
Brüning makes this position official on the 3rd in an interview with the French newspaper Petit Parisien. He says, German foreign policy is fundamentally based on the loyal execution of international treaties and the peaceful cooperation of nations.
This is immediately picked up on by the Nazis, who strongly oppose this course of action. As for why, here's what Hitler himself says in an article in the Völkische Beobachter on the 7th.
Overall, the Edict of Versailles has stamped the German nation as a second-class race.
But Brüning does not just want to do what the former Entente powers want. He also wants to advance what he thinks are the interests of Germany, and he has a plan.
If you can't rearm, the next best option is for others to disarm.
Yeah.
Considering that Germany is already largely disarmed due to Versailles, this is a no-risk kind of demand.
So that's what the German delegation does in Geneva. But the French do not agree to shrink their military. The Nazis call this a breach of the Versailles Treaty. This is what French Prime Minister André Tardieu has to say on the subject.
The Treaty of Versailles contains only the obligation for the formerly hostile countries to disarm. The Germans always forget that their hardships are not a result of the treaties, but that the treaties are a result of the war. Germany's mistake lies in believing that the Treaty of Versailles is a contract of mutual obligation.
This is not the only misconception the Nazis labor under when speaking about Versailles. Another common one is that Germany alone was made responsible for the Great War. This is false, since all the former Central Powers have exactly the same clause in their treaties, blaming the country in question and her allies for the war.
There is also another reason why the French might be skeptical about disarmament at present. The recent German elections were heard and felt abroad. Politics does not happen in a vacuum. The biggest winners of the election were, again, the Nazis.
This has to be kept in mind when hearing the statement by French Foreign Minister Aristide Briand. If one reads certain articles and speeches by well-known German politicians, one cannot help but feel a strong sense of disappointment.
And that's the news. Let's get to the Weimar Wire political indicator brought to you by Time Ghost.
Yeah.
Given the Nazi successes in some regional elections, they remain on the up. Likewise, the communists, with public perception of the economic and employment situation remaining dire, stay on an upward trajectory.
Brüning and the Burger Bloc are going down. Internal struggles caused by the Economy Party and planned new presidential decrees are to blame for this.
The SPD remains about where it was.
Right.
This month's events led to a lot of questions about the future of Germany, its people, and the world at large.
Did Severing try to cover up the police brutality of May 1st, 1929? Or is everything just a strange coincidence?
Will DOX, the largest plane in history, safely reach America?
Will German fraternities ever stop dueling and hang up their swords?
Will the Reichstag pass the budget, or will Brüning need more presidential decrees to make it work?
Could the budget yet again lead to the resignation of the Chancellor or the dismissal of Parliament?
What will the Commission decide in Geneva? Will there be an agreement on disarmament?
Will France ever agree to revisit the Treaty of Versailles?
Maybe we will find out at the end of December. Maybe 1930 has some more surprises in store for us before it comes to its end.
Maybe, but definitely the Time Ghost Army is the engine that will get us there and makes it possible for us to give you the ins and outs of German politics and culture. To become part of this, join us at timeghost.tv or patreon.com. Weimar Wire, signing off. Excelsior!